o'clock, and here is Mary Margaret McBride.
Just relax. Everybody just relax today. Put yourself in a good mood, because I'm not out to reform you or instruct you today at all. I'm just going to amuse you, I think. We have a young French singer, Gérard Souzay, S-O-U-Z-A-Y, who's getting rave reviews, just starting his concert tours in this country just a few weeks ago, and already they're saying that he's magnificent. And you will hear him singing today at the end of this program, so I want you all to stay tuned to the very end. Then, do you know what city in this country celebrates Rain Day? And what state celebrates Independence Day on May the 4th? You know that? And what state has the smallest population of any and celebrates Eldorado Day? You know any of those things? Robert Meyer Jr., who is, what is that thing that they call people who are crazy about bullfighting? Aficionado? You're aficionado on festivals, aren't you?
That's right.
Robert Meyer Jr.?
That's right.
I don't know how you started, just because you came from New Orleans, I suppose, where they have...
Yes, that's right. When I moved to New York, everybody wanted to know what the Mardi Gras was all about, because everybody seems to want to go to the Mardi Gras, and so I wanted to know what happened in other people's hometowns. So I began talking and then doing some research and planned to go into business, starting a clearinghouse for festivals.
So now he has a business, just telling people where to go for festivals. I think he's got something, Osa Johnson, about a place in Kansas near where you came from.
Really?
What's your town?
Chanute, Kansas. You have to sneeze it when you say it.
Spell it.
C-H-A-N-U-T-E.
Chanute.
Uh-huh.
Chanute. I don't know whether that's near...
Well, I don't know Chanute, I'm sorry to say, but
You
I'll
don't?
look it up.
Well, you'll see what kind of a festival they have in Chanute, because you say that there are 10 festivals. There's an average of 10 festivals a day in the United States. That'd be 3,650 a year.
My.
And we don't really know about many of them at all. Of course, here's Osa Johnson. She's the woman who married Adventure, Martin Johnson, spent 4 years literally in paradise. That was Paradise Lake, Africa. And I never get tired of her stories, because she's also the woman who took a churn to the jungles. Used to churn butter every day or two. She took watermelon seed and muskmelon seed and made gardens in the jungle. She used to serve her husband corned beef and cabbage, of all improbable things, and hot cakes, and grandma's baking powder biscuits.
Soda biscuits, too.
Soda biscuits and floating island.
Floating island pudding, that's what he loved.
Right in the jungle.
That's right.
Not many women could do that, I think.
I even molded my butter with a beautiful little tea rose on top of it, a pound mold.
That tickles me more than anything, that she used to take this butter that she'd churned. Her grandma said, you better take a churn along with you. So Osa did. I'm sure the only woman who ever took a churn to the jungle exploring. So now she's in for a brand new adventure, because she's doing a nationwide tour, going all over the country with some of the pictures of the Solomons and Borneo and Africa that the Johnsons took, but that never were shown. I don't know, millions of feet of film. And lots of you are going to have a chance to see her. So I know I'll just make her remember a few of the exciting things she's done a little later in this program. So don't you think I was right when I say just relax and put yourself in a good mood, because you're going to have fun today. But I would like to remind you of a few things for Thanksgiving. You're going to have a good big dinner with everybody there, all the children and grandma and everybody. And you don't want to have to work so very hard. And I was thinking that bird's eye ought to be first today on this list of mine. The bird's eye frosted foods. When you buy bird's eye, you have all the integrity and know-how of bird's eye, the pioneers in frozen foods. And you can get bird's eye everywhere, and right now there are these wonderful bargains just fixed for Thanksgiving. To start the day, there'd be bird's eye orange juice at the lowest price it's ever been. Better than you could squeeze, bird's eye orange juice. You already know that. but you ought to stock up on, because this is the last week I'm going to say that about the lowest price it's ever been. So maybe it's just a bargain right now. So you better stock up while there's time. Then there's that wonderful bird's eye corn. You know, just as good as if Osa had grown it in her in her jungle garden and gone out and picked it and plunged it in the pot. Tender and milky, delicious corn. And wonderful for Thanksgiving dinner. I think corn's wonderful. And then I think those Ford Hook limas. You could even combine the two of them. The Ford Hooks are those big ones with the tender skin and the delicious flavor. And let's see, there are a couple of others. Cauliflower.
That's one other.
Bird's eye cauliflower and bird's eye wax beans. Any one or two or three of them. You know, back in Kansas where Osa came from and in Missouri where I came from, we wouldn't stop with just a skimpy little old two vegetables, would we?
No.
No, sir. We'd have dishes of them.
Plenty of them, and all on the table at one time.
And I'll tell you two stores among the many that carry bird's eye, the Grand Union stores and Greet Wagner in Brooklyn on Nostrand Avenue, 892 Nostrand Avenue. I don't know, of course, about washing on Thanksgiving. I guess not very many people will be doing that, but you'll be dirtying up your best luncheon and dinner cloths so that you'll have things that you'll need new bead form La France to do. I'm right on that, am I not? Certainly I am. And new bead form La France is a sort of a miracle product. It has this luminesce. It's an ingredient that makes white clothes whiter than when they were new and colored clothes brighter. And the bead form makes it just dissolve as if it were a bubble bursting. Then it goes right in your tub or your washing machine or your automatic washer with your soap or detergent, and helps the soap or detergent do a better job even in hard water. So it blues, it helps the soap or detergent do a better job, it makes white clothes whiter and colored clothes brighter, and it costs only about 2 cents for a big family washing and less than 2 seconds to use. So wouldn't you investigate new bead form La France? You'd think you would, but of course I never know. Oh, centerpiece for Thanksgiving dinner. Washington State delicious apples, a great big bowl of them with maybe some autumn leaves, you know, or maybe other fruit. But the center, the keynote, ought to be those great, beautiful, juicy Washington State delicious apples, the most beautiful red that you've ever seen. That's the result of growing in this volcanic ash soil out there in Washington, with the sunshine just right the whole time the apple's coming to maturity, the moisture just right. Everything that nature could do for those apples has been done, and everything that man could do, because even pruning those trees is a special art. And those Washington State delicious apple pruners are trained. They go to school to learn how to do it. And the apples, when you see them in the market, you just sort of swoon. Vincent even swoons when I bring them in. I meant to bring you some. I tell you, when you go to collect your Bohack turkey,
Yes.
I'll have Myra put up a sack of Washington State delicious apples.
Perfect. Then I'll be sure to have a centerpiece.
I have them all over the place, and they perfume my house, my living room, my bedroom, the kitchen, everywhere. They're Washington State delicious apples. They are beautiful, good apples. Then how could you better start Thanksgiving dinner than by Weiler's onion soup? Now there is a soup. It's not too filling, yet it sort of piques the appetite, I think. And it's a lot of trouble to make and make right, onion soup. So this Weiler's onion soup, which has this beef broth and it has the toasted onions and it's got the old French recipe, it's all done for you practically. There it is in the package, and such a bargain right now. You know, the Weiler's 1 cent sale, onion soup 1 cent sale, Weiler's. You get 3 envelopes for the price of 2 and only a penny extra. See, it's all done up for you. 3 envelopes of this Weiler's onion soup for the price of 2 and a penny extra. And this is probably the last week that I'll ever speak about it, so you ought to stock up on Weiler's onion soup. Tell them some places, Vincent.
Well, among many others, the Safeway stores, Grand Union stores, King Cullen stores, and Bohack's.
Mm-hmm. And then what kind of coffee?
Oh, U-Ban coffee, of course, to finish up the meal with.
Of course. Mrs. Harry Monroe of East Orange, New Jersey said, "You ask for memories of U-Ban coffee users. My opinion of this coffee is of the best, and my memories are happy ones of the time long ago when my dear husband was with me and we drank and enjoyed U-Ban coffee together. fragrance of it and the flavor of it, and the total effect that it had on you was that no time or trouble or money had been spared to make UBAN a perfect coffee. And that's why so many people are just taking UBAN for their very own. That's YUBAN. Then, of course, maybe you have pumpkin pie or mince pie, maybe that Boheck mince pie for your dessert. But later in the day, there will be people coming in, and I wish you'd get some dromedary gingerbread mix, several packages of it in the house, and maybe make up some cookies. You could make up some cookies, or you could make up one of those ring molds of dromedary and serve it for supper with ice cream in the center or sweetened flavored whipped cream in the center. You know, this is George Washington's mother's own recipe that dromedary gingerbread mix uses, and yet you don't have any of the trouble she had. You just add water to the contents of the package, stir her up, put her in the stove, and there's so many things. You can make a Boston cream pie out of it. You can make a cream cheese and nut loaf. Just sweeten and flavor cream cheese and spread it, split your gingerbread and spread it in between and put some nuts on the top. Good, huh?
Full of ideas, aren't you?
Oh, I'm full of wonderful ideas. Fruit strips you can make. Cookies with those little pieces of chocolate in. The ginger flavor and the chocolate and our nuts and ginger, everything goes good together. I'm kind of hungry, I guess. Reckon that's it? Reckon that's what's the matter with me? Oh, so Johnson, you say that there are some of these pictures that the world has never seen that you and Martin Johnson took in the Solomons and in Borneo and in Africa. May I tell you a few of the pictures that I remember from your books? Bride in the Solomons and I Married Adventure and 4 Years in Paradise. See, I'm up on all your books.
That's right.
Some of the pictures that I'd like to see. One is the time, do you remember when you all came delightedly on a group of elephants, and there was a new baby. And this new baby was so new, he was just staggering around. And for an elephant, he was really very small indeed. The mother had to kneel to feed him, do you remember? And the thing that charmed me was that you described them going off, all this elephant family. There were two that you said kind of acted as assistants to the mother, nurses for the baby. But the whole family, when this baby got too tired to stumble along, would stop patiently and wait for him.
That's right.
Now, I'd like to see that picture.
Well, you'll see it in one of my new pictures coming out. It'll be jungle Buddhism.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
You'll have those elephants.
Sure, darling.
Did you take a picture? Do you remember the time that the elephants used to get in your sweet potatoes?
Oh, yes. Well, I planted sweet potatoes for them later on, you know, because they liked them so
much. Yeah.
Yes. So I made a great big patch for them so that they wouldn't roll in my country gentleman corn or my golden bantam corn and mow it all down, so I planted sweet potatoes for them.
Yeah, and as I remember, they used to take the straight path to the sweet potatoes and never disturb anything else.
Oh, no, I even had a strawberry patch, but they never bothered the strawberry patch. I had them in beds, you know. They just walked around the strawberry patches.
That's wonderful. Do you remember the Christmas dinner that you had the time you shot the wild bustard?
Yeah, that was the wild turkey. He weighed 40 pounds.
But they call him a bustard, which is a horrible name, isn't it?
I know it is. But he's really very delicious. You could really, the breast is so large that you could just cut steaks off of it and just broil them.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful Christmas dinner.
You
We
had
all-
strawberries that day.
Oh, sure. We always celebrated all the holidays in Africa.
It didn't look much like Christmas, did it?
Well, I had gone to the expense of riding old Lazy Bones, you know, my old white mule, to go outside of the forest to get this turkey. And I came back with it on the back of the mule. And Martin was so happy. Then we had wild apricots in the forest, so I made an apricot pie.
Yes.
And then we had Abyssinian coffee growing, wild Abyssinian coffee. So we had this lovely Abyssinian coffee.
And you had wild asparagus, as I
Oh,
remember.
yes, that was beautiful. Green wild asparagus from the asparagus fern.
Yeah. And you remember what you stuffed that bustard. I insist on calling him a bustard. This is such a horrible name. You stuffed him with wild mushrooms.
That's right, little button mushrooms that I found in the forest.
And you had a real Christmas dinner.
Yes, indeed, we had a nice fireplace going because Lake Paradise was almost 6,000 feet above sea level. and we had our fireplace going. I made my chairs out of skins, interlaced, from animal skins. And we had a grand, glorious time. Then after we had our Christmas dinner, even Thanksgiving, we would go down and sit on the cliff overlooking Lake Paradise and watch the herd of elephants come down in the moonlight with their tusks gleaming. Martin would take his big cigar. We'd take our guns, and away we'd go and sit on top of the cliff. It was wonderful to see them all coming down, single file, babies in between them. And as they would walk, their legs would just sound like a woman with taffeta skirts on. She'd go, shh, 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 and away they'd come. Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Elephants seem to be your favorites. I don't think you were quite so happy the night, this is one night, maybe you did it many times, that you spent alone in what you call a blind, one of those
yes.
places where you're waiting for lions.
That's right.
You weren't so happy that night. You ran out.
Oh, no, I wasn't. But then the first night we were at Lake Paradise, you see, our little home there was mud walls, our bedroom, and they were thatched. The roofs were thatched. And the first night we were there, we slept in our little bedroom. An old elephant came up and started to pull the grass off of the roof that we were sleeping in, and his tummy rumbled just like thunder. I wasn't so happy then either.
No, but I think the lions
Just
are
little
worse.
wooden doors, that's all.
Yeah, he could have got in.
Oh, sure he could. He could knock the whole place down.
But I still think the lion was worse. Don't you remember how he smelled around the blind and you thought, this is a pretty fragile little arrangement. He can get in at me very easily.
Oh, sure, but Martin had put a thornbush tree so that I couldn't get out. Of course, the lion could have come through the front
Yeah.
of the place. But I think the elephant is the king of beasts.
Not as scary.
Oh, no, that's just the lion. I'm awfully frightened of lions. I mean, it's all right as long as you're in a motor car because it's the fumes of the gasoline. But once you get out of the motor car, it's just too bad, especially if they're accompanied by, Alanis is accompanied by her babies. Every single animal mother is dangerous when she is accompanied by her babies. Just like the mother over here, the human mother. If she goes in shopping, leaves her little baby outside in the carriage, she's frightened too, isn't she? Well, the animals are the same time. That's the same way. And especially, too, if an old elephant, a rogue elephant is kicked out of the herd sometimes, of which he is, or an old lion, well, then he roams around and he's mad. And every time he sees you, he'll come for you.
How many elephants have come for you in your time, would you say?
Well, honey, I'll tell you, we really only shot with the lens of the camera. But there were times it was necessary for me to protect Martin's life. So that's why I had to learn to shoot a big elephant gun. It weighs 12 pounds.
And you're 4 feet 11.
That's all. Look at the tiny fingers.
I don't know how you ever did it.
But I tell you, honey, I had to shoot in order to protect ourselves. And there were a good many times that the old rogue elephant would come after you, or lions, or whatnot. And the
Hyenas.
rhinos. Oh, well, hyenas, they're just vermin. All they used to do was to steal my shoes at night if I put them on top of the hood of the motor car, I'll put them between the mud guard and the hood. Then they'd steal that. Then one time I slept in the car alone and I was making some flashlight pictures for Martin at night because he couldn't work all day long, you see, and then step all night. So I used to make the flashlights for him. And this old hyena came along and I'd forgotten and put my binoculars down. You can see in the moonlight night with these wide-range binoculars. So I'd put them down on the, beside my car, and this hyena comes up, and if he didn't take those binoculars away, we never did find him. Of course, we have to have another pair.
That must have been a curiosity in the jungle, a hyena with binoculars.
Oh, sure. And then I've often been out nighttime and making flashlights for Martin, and I'd sit up on top of the car, and I'd have the cook to make my bed in the car. Martin would go back, kiss me good night, set up his cameras for me. And then I'd sit up on top of the hood of the car and I had partridge, and I used to throw the partridge bones at the lions. They come up.
Honestly, Osa. You got one picture, I guess, among these that have never been shown where you're saving Martin's life from what, a rhinoceros?
Oh, yes. It's only 15 feet
He's only 15 feet
away from me, and Martin said, now, honey, walk up before him, but don't shoot until I tell you to, because I want to make an exciting picture for the public.
So you waited.
I waited till he got within 15 feet of me, and then I brought him down.
15 feet of you or Martin?
Me? Oh, so
Well, where was Martin?
he's making a picture
Oh, he's
to
not
please
in
the
danger.
public. Oh, no, he's up on top of the truck with his cameras. But don't shoot until I tell you to. That night I didn't eat any dinner.
I'll bet.
A little bit too nervous.
What are some of the others? You have some pictures of the Solomon's women, don't you? Isn't it in the Solomons that you once told me women are not allowed to cross streams?
Oh, well, I never was allowed to cross any stream if Martin could cross it. But a woman is supposed to have bad blood. She contaminates the water with her bad blood, so I'd have to walk a mile down, you see. But we lived, I was there the First World War, and it was we lived on Tulagi and Guadalcanal, Munda, New Georgia, where we had our great airport this last time, and then San Cristobal, Maleta among the cannibals. And by the way, the man that we stopped with, I'm the only woman who ever penetrated back on the island Maleta. You've never read anything about the Japs being back there.
Maleta, M-A-L-A-I-T-A.
That's not far from Tulagi, the seat of government, the capital of the Solomon Islands. But the man who we lived with, he was killed and eaten in 1929.
I beg your pardon?
He was killed and eaten in 1929, and an Australian government official that was with him, and the governor of Port Moresby, led an expedition back into the interior, and he strung up 80 natives. All they found was their heads, skulls, that's all. They'd eaten them. And this is the man I lived with for 3 weeks. Well, back into the interior among these awful cannibals.
I know he was the one that warned you, too, wasn't he, about them?
Oh, yes, he did.
He
right.
was afraid, I
Well, the
think.
British warned me. Said, for heaven's sakes, don't take your wife back, Martin. You can go. But, you know, wherever Martin was going, I was going to go, too. I wouldn't let him go alone.
Have you got some pictures of, I hope you haven't got a picture of an old woman being buried alive.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. That was on the island of Val in the New Hebrides.
It's
Sure.
terrible, also.
Well, honey, you see, when people become old and useless, then they bury them alive. So this old woman, her daughter said, Mother, we're going to get married, so we think that you'll be in the way, so we might just as well bury you alive. So both of them took the mother, led her off, they dug a grave, then they put a huge stone over her face, and then earth on top of that, and then they danced and sang.
Danced and sang around the grave.
Yes, and then the two daughters went out that evening, and they caught a fish, and then they took some coconuts, and they sprinkled it over a grave so her spirit would come up to have something to eat. That was the kindness.
Well, what did the old woman do while all this was going on?
She's dead, honey, with a stone over her face and all her. They danced on her. And with earth,
But I thought
she didn't know anything.
Yeah, I'm glad.
But I have that picture of her being buried alive. But what could we do among 400 naked savages with human shin bones through the noses, with only a couple of little automatic pistols in our pocket? We couldn't do anything.
No. But must have been an awful experience for you.
It was terrible. It was terrible. I've seen more things, you know. For 30 years, I've studied Buddhism in all the different parts of the jungle. And I'm going to write, I'm doing it now, a new book on Buddhism, because there's only one book that's been done on Buddhism, and that's on Haiti. Never on Africa. You can't even find one at the Museum of Natural History.
Well,
You know, like the witch doctor and the rain doctor and whatnot, you know.
Osa,
What, dear?
I'm still overcome by the the poor old woman buried alive. Did they always do that, do you think?
Oh, yes, they've done that for centuries.
Mm.
Even the old men, too.
You know, another picture that I'd like to see, do you remember one time, I don't know whether this was the Solomons or Africa, that you got into a clearing in the jungle and there was a woman there with her baby. It was
Yes.
such a cute baby, and you thought it was so darling. She liked all these babies, whether they were human or whether they
Yes.
were the little animals. But she'd adopt the little animal babies and some of the human ones too. But she held out her arms to this baby, and to her surprise, the mother, who was just a wild creature out of the jungle, gave the baby to you. And then do you remember she went off, and you thought she had deserted the baby?
Yes,
You
I
thought
thought I
you
had
were
the baby
left-
for life.
You thought you were left holding the baby. I'd like to see a picture of you with this baby looking rather startled and...
I have one.
Oh, have you?
Yes, I have it in my new picture.
Oh, anything I can mention she's got. That I didn't know.
Oh, yes, honey.
Hmm. Well,
I always loved little babies, you know, whether they were little native babies or little animal babies. That's why I had so many pets, you know, like Pantaloons, the baby elephant that weighed 200 pounds, you know. And then the baby gorilla, Snowball, you know, that I wrote a book about. And then Teddy the chimpanzee, and 4 baby cheetahs, the hunting leopards. They're the fastest animal on 4 legs. And then little hedgehogs and...
hedgehogs of
Hedgehogs.
all the pets
Oh,
that
but
I
they're
wouldn't
cute. They
want.
look like little full of brushes walking along the ground when they go.
Mhm.
You see, the natives would always bring me in these little animals because I was so lonesome not seeing a white woman. Well, 4 years in paradise, I only saw a white woman 3 times in 4 years.
Mhm.
I was lonesome,
Was
see?
that
so
that apple-cheeked missionary from Australia? Woman from Australia?
No, this was Lady Macmillan came up to see us.
Oh,
and
Lady Macmillan.
Sir Northrop Macmillan, you know. They were born in St. Louis.
Hmm.
They're both of them gone now. But they came up to visit us, Lake Paradise.
I remember when they came.
Mhm.
Well, Osa, I hope that you'll have a wonderful time tonight at Carnegie Hall. She's going to show these pictures and talk about them tonight at Carnegie Hall, Osa Johnson, and I hope a lot of you will be there to see her. And then, of course, she's going to tour the country. She's going to Chicago and all points west, north, south, everywhere.
Honolulu, too?
This is a 2-hour show, I hear.
Yes. I'm going to Honolulu, too.
I don't understand what they'll do. They'll show the pictures and you'll be off here talking about them.
Well, no, I talk about the Solomon Islands, and the rest is all in soundtrack.
Oh, and soundtrack.
You know, like from the Solomon Islands, and then captured by cannibals in the New Hebrides. I'll talk about that. And then afterwards, the picture goes on to British North Borneo, where I spent 4 years, and then to Africa.
Well, thank you so much, Osa Johnson, for coming here and letting us have a little preview of this. We've all enjoyed it, I know.